Hi all, I am doing the video version of my overview for the reading lesson plan that I created. Um, and so I ended up changing the context a little bit from what I wrote originally last week, and I hope that's okay with you all. Very minute adjustments that I made though. I'm still pretending that I have 12 students in 6th grade and that they speak Spanish natively, and it's a mix of boys and girls, and that they're going to school for better job opportunities and the hopes to study in an American university. I base this context off of the substitute teaching that I'm currently doing. I'm mainly working with the 6th grade, and I've been fortunate enough to pretty much be in the same classroom every week. So I'm trying to use my experience in the real world to applying it to this pretend ideal world of me teaching ESL. Maybe in a foreign speaking country, like somewhere with students speak Spanish. So for this particular assignment, they're going to need their journals, their printed readings, and potentially the handouts. Overall, I'm helping them express to others what they just read. So being able to comprehend what they read, but also being able to put that into words to their classmates or their peers. For the reading itself, I chose a classic story, Alice in Wonderland. There are so many versions of the story, from baby versions to adult versions, that it felt like this is the kind of book I could get a hold of for any age group and it would be appropriate. I did find a reading copy of it, so I'm attaching it to my lesson plan for you guys to see. And that version looks like this. And I copied it myself from the website, this website right here. But I wanted to make it more reader friendly because the website had ads and color and a bunch of busyness going on the screen. So I thought by printing and copying it onto a blank sheet like this would be much more reader friendly. Also having it broken into small chunks would be easier on the eyes for the students. So one thing I noted that might be difficult for students is the ability to know every single word in English. So a few words that I thought that might throw a curveball for them are the words that I highlighted here: curiosity, dreadful, potion, cottage, maid, strange, slithering, scolded, croquet, shrieked, timidly, trumpet, and I think that might be it. Yeah, that's it. Of course, there might be other words that come up, but I figured these might be a good 12 words to get started with. With those words, I like to use the vocab log. And basically a vocab log looks like this. So they write the vocabulary word, they make note of what page they found it on, how it's used in the reading, the definition of the reading, and they can even do a drawing. So this is like the full version. I also want to go back to the main page, but I'm having trouble finding the button. One moment. Okay, so back to the lesson plan itself. So for pre-reading, we go over those 12 words, and then I ask the students to copy down these words into their journals or using that handout that I just showed you. As a class, we're going to work together to define these words. But if no one knows the answer or knows what the word is, I figured I'll just circle them on the board rather than giving them the answer, and we'll come back to them after we do the reading. If still, even with using the context clues, they can't figure out what that word means, then we can have a race to look up who knows what the word is. And that's always a fun way to get the students engaged after sitting quietly for a little while. So during the actual reading process, I'll have the students read silently to themselves and circle any additional unknown words to them. When they finish, I'm going to have them use their journals to make a bullet point list of all the key events that took place in the story, and which new characters were introduced along the way. So did they meet the White Rabbit first, or did they meet the Mad Hatter first? Little key details like that, just to show me if they were able to, one, pay attention close enough to the story, and two, were they able to comprehend what was happening, the order of different chaos that was taking place, because Although Alice in Wonderland is a classic story, there is a lot of fantasy that might be confusing when reading it in a second language. At least that would be my guess. So after they create their own bullet point list, then they're going to work with their small groups. So again, I said there's about 12 students in my class, and I wanted to do small groups of 4, so I'd have 3 groups in total with 4 people in each of those groups. So within their group, they'd work with their 3 other partners and compare their lists, see what the order of events were, when they met what characters, and come up with a master group list. So that would be separate from their original journals. And this would give me insight into which student was able to follow along and comprehend the story, and which students might have struggled a little bit and needed the group support. After each of the groups complete their lists, I will then have one person be nominated from the group to come up to the board so that we can have all 3 lists put on the board. With those 3 lists, we'll be able to refine them and have a final master list of the events. After the reading, I would have the students take a moment to just kind of give them a brain break from looking at words and maybe close their eyes and ask the students, what do you imagine Alice will look like? How old is she? And then we can open their eyes and kind of have a conversation, just a group brain melts together. We could do another brain map on the board, or we could just have a conversation. And then we can ask the question, did Alice really travel to Wonderland, or was it really all a dream? Another question to just kind of get the conversation going. I'm going to pause it because there's an ambulance going by. After having some group conversation, I do want to ask them, are the students interested in reading the full version of the story? Why or why not? If they think it's too juvenile, or they're just not interested, or they want to read something new, I want to know that. I don't want to make them read a book they're not interested in. So I also would ask them, what other classic stories might they be interested in reading? Maybe a story they've heard of, but they don't really remember the full details of. Like, what other classic stories are they interested in reading as a class? Then, based off the top 2 choices from the additional stories they're interested in, I would do this exercise all over again with those 2 other short stories in the future. And by the time we've completed doing this short version 3 times, they will now have the skills to feel confident enough to do this on their own. And that's really important to me, is to make my students feel confident in their own abilities. So I would then assign one of these stories the full book version, and we would read that full book version throughout the semester, roughly 3 chapters a week, and I would have them make bullet point lists of the key events that took place. So I'd want a minimum of 2 bullet points per chapter in their journals. In addition to reading, I'll have them keep up with their vocabulary log, doing a minimum of 5 words per week. And at the end of each week, we'll go over the readings that they did that week. Maybe we can have a group discussion or a play or a game, acting out what the 3 chapters were about that week. And then we'll create a masterclass week with additional vocabulary words that the students had come up with on their own in their journals. So I think overall, this would give me a lot of flexibility and movement in this kind of lesson plan, and something that I could really expand on and take from a class-to-class kind of lesson plan, but also the kind of lesson plan that it could be expanded into a full semester. I hope you like this, and I think that's pretty much what we've been working on throughout the beginning of our semester in the 4 skills. I think it's really important to have some kind of understanding of why we do activities for students, rather than just giving them something to do. It's important for us to have some meaning and context behind it and show scaffolding. So this is my first time writing a reading lesson plan. Let me know what you think, and I look forward to hearing from you all. Bye.